All right, let's get into it. 6 seasons, so many twists and betrayals, and one absolutely unforgettable family. Now, with a Peaky Blinders movie right around the corner, we're going to break it all down. Every major play, every brutal loss, and every single impossible win. This is the story of the Shelby family, all the way from the grimy back streets of Birmingham to the halls of Parliament.
You know, this line, it isn't just a threat, it's their entire identity. It's both a promise and a warning, and it's delivered with the same cold steel as the razor blades they sew into their caps. This one line tells you everything about the reputation that the Shelbys fought, bled, and killed to build. And as you're about to see, it's a reputation they have to defend constantly against enemies from every walk of life.
And this is where it all kicks off, right in the smoke and grime of post-World War I Birmingham. The Shelby brothers, they're veterans, all struggling with the trauma of what they saw in France, and they're running a pretty small-time bookmaking operation. But then, a simple mistake during a heist lands them a massive crate of government machine guns. What looks like a lucky break spirals out of control, like immediately, putting them on a direct collision course with the crown itself.
This is where that ambition really catches fire. Led by the brilliant and totally haunted mind of Thomas Shelby, the Peaky Blinders are not content with just getting by. For Tommy, you see, every move, every power play is a way to try and silence the explosions that are still ringing in his ears from the war. And he's got his volatile older brother Arthur and his loyal younger brother John by his side. He sees a path to legitimacy, an empire so big, so powerful that it can finally buy him some peace. But man, that path is paved with violence. So right from day one, Tommy is basically fighting a war on 2 fronts. You've got the streets, where he has to outsmart Billy Kimber, the brutal king of the local racing rackets. But then, looming over everything, is the government, and they're personified by this relentless, almost fanatical Inspector Campbell, who's been sent by none other than Winston Churchill to get those stolen guns back, no matter what it takes.
And Tommy's rise is just meteoric. It's built on pure audacity. He doesn't just go up against Billy Kimber, he takes his entire empire apart in a single, incredibly bloody street battle. Once Birmingham is locked down, he immediately looks to London, just fearlessly stepping into the middle of turf wars with established Italian and Jewish gangs. And all the while, he's playing this incredibly dangerous game of cat and mouse with Inspector Campbell, whose mission quickly turns into a very, very personal obsession.
But Campbell has a secret weapon, and her name is Grace. She's an undercover agent posing as a barmaid to get close to Tommy, and she gets closer than anyone. Their connection becomes the real emotional heart of the early seasons. You can feel her being torn between her duty to the crown and her genuine love for him. In the end, though, she chooses Tommy. She saves his life by shooting Campbell on a train platform before she escapes. And that betrayal? Oh, it lights a fire of vengeance in Campbell that is going to burn for years. Of course, every victory has its price. And as the Shelby empire gets bigger, the enemies just get more powerful, more sophisticated, and a whole lot more dangerous. The street fights in Birmingham, they evolve into full-blown wars fought in the shadows of London's high society. So this new world traps Tommy in a brutal 3-way conflict. He's got Darby Sabini, the ruthless Italian mob boss, on one side. On the other, the volatile, unpredictable, but absolutely brilliant leader of the Jewish gang in Camden Town, Alfie Solomons. Tommy ends up forming this really tense, explosive alliance with Alfie, all while that vengeful Inspector Campbell, who is now a major in military intelligence, is pulling the strings from the shadows, just trying to destroy Tommy once and for all.
Well, that war finally ends when Polly, the family's matriarch, puts a bullet in Campbell for good. And this kicks off a brief, almost shining moment of peace. Just 2 years. That's all they get. Tommy and Grace get married, they have their son, Charles, and for a minute, it really seems like Tommy might actually get that legitimate life he's always wanted. But in the world of the Peaky Blinders, peace is just the quiet before the next storm.
And that storm arrives with just brutal force. From this point on, Tommy's ambition is pretty much measured in scars, both the ones he carries and the ones he inflicts on his own family. Every single step he takes up that ladder of power is paid for with blood, and the cost becomes devastatingly personal.
And here it is, the moment that changes absolutely everything. They're at a gala, and Grace is wearing this supposedly cursed sapphire necklace. She's shot and killed by an assassin hired by the Italian Shangretta family. The bullet was meant for Tommy. Her death just shatters him. It sends him into this dark spiral of grief and pure cold vengeance that will honestly echo through the rest of the series.
The Shangretta vendetta does not stop there.
Luca Changretta, a New York mafioso, comes all the way to Birmingham for an eye-for-an-eye kind of war. The family gets the Black Hand, which is basically a death sentence. And it's John who pays the price first. He's gunned down in a hail of bullets right outside his home. Losing his younger brother just hardens Tommy even more.
And the losses, they just keep coming. Years later, we lose the family's true matriarch, the formidable Aunt Polly. And she's killed by the IRA, not as part of some gang war, but as a consequence of Tommy's dangerous political games, a failed assassination attempt on a fascist leader. Her death just rips the soul right out of the family.
And you know, it's not just the enemies on the outside. The deepest cuts, they always come from within. Alfie Solomons, his brilliant and chaotic frenemy, betrays him to Luca Changretta, and that wound feels so personal. And then there's Polly's own son, Michael. His ambition, fueled by his time in America, leads him to try and take over from Tommy, fracturing the family from the inside out.
So in the final seasons, the whole fight turns inward. Tommy actually becomes a Labour MP, thinking he can conquer the political world just like he did the streets. But in Parliament, he finds an enemy that kind of reflects his own darkness back at him, an ideology. He decides he's going to fight the rise of fascism from the inside, confronting a monster you can't just beat with fists or blades.
And his new adversary is Oswald Mosley, a charismatic and incredibly cunning real-life fascist leader. You can't intimidate Mosley. You can't outmaneuver him with razors and guns. He is a political animal. And for the first time, Tommy realizes he might have actually met his intellectual match, and now he's fighting a battle for the very soul of the country.
So what does Tommy do? He cooks up his most ambitious plan ever: assassinate Mosley at a huge fascist rally. He gets old allies together, including a supposedly dead Alfie Solomons, and sets the whole thing up. But at the very last second, some unseen force steps in. The plan just completely collapses. It's a catastrophic failure that gets his allies killed, including Polly's fiancée, and it leaves Tommy utterly broken.
Yeah, that failure pushes Tommy right over the edge. It just compounds the crushing weight he's already carrying. I mean, his WWI trauma never really left him. He's haunted by the ghosts of Grace, John, and now Polly. He's battling an opium addiction. The pressure of living this double life as a gangster and a politician, it's brought him to the absolute brink of self-destruction.
Just when it seems like there is no way out for him, Tommy gets the final blow, a diagnosis, an inoperable brain tumor. The doctor tells him he has maybe a year to live, so he prepares to end things on his own terms. But the story has one last incredible twist up its sleeve.
It turns out the diagnosis was a lie. The whole thing was a brilliant, cruel manipulation cooked up by Oswald Mosley and his inner circle just to get Tommy out of the picture. They used a fascist-sympathizing doctor to convince him he was dying, fully expecting he'd just take his own life. He wasn't facing death, he was facing his enemy's ultimate checkmate.
As his own caravan burns, Tommy finally sees the truth. And in that moment, he isn't just reborn, he's completely transformed. He sheds his past, his grief, all of his fear. He's walked right up to the edge of death and stared into the abyss, and he comes back as something more. He becomes a myth, a man who, in his own mind, can't be killed.
And with this newfound clarity, he acts decisively. He ties up the last loose end of that family feud that cost him so much. He confronts his cousin Michael, who had just tried to kill him with a car bomb, and he executes him without a moment's hesitation. The war within the family is finally over.
And so he just rides away, a ghost, free from his name, his history, his demons. But this is Thomas Shelby we're talking about. Peace is never really an option. So the question isn't if he'll return to the fight, but what that next fight is going to be. With the Second World War looming on the horizon, a new man rides into the dawn, and you just know his story is far from over.